prophet. Who is a prophet? What is a prophet? In this video, I am going to define prophet and go over some examples of prophets by looking at actual religions. And what I want to do is go through some religions and explain why some of them have prophets, whereas others do not. Let's get started. The first thing I want to do is define what a prophet is. Now, the prophet is the male version of prophetess. A prophetess is a woman prophet. So by defining what prophet means, we can find it in the male or the female, although some Christians believe that we should call no one a prophetess, but rather a woman prophet, whereas other religions would just say prophetess. This word prophet can be broken down into something like a spokesperson, someone who is speaking on behalf of someone else, not themselves. And in the field of religion, a prophet is a spokesperson for God, or for the gods, or for angels that are working on behalf of God themselves. So I could have written a spokesperson for divine forces. Now think about that word prophecy or to prophesize. Both of those have something to do with a human being telling the future. For example, Nostradamus is a person who supposedly knew what the future was going to hold. But Nostradamus would not be called a prophet because even if he knew the future, he wasn't knowing the future because he was inspired by God and speaking on behalf of God to inform human beings what the future holds, which is how we define prophet. A prophet is someone who is speaking on behalf of God. And prophets do prophesize. Human beings don't by themselves have knowledge of the future. Think about it. The future hasn't happened yet. So there are no facts yet. And for you to know something is to have a fact in your mind. And so if the future hasn't happened yet, and so there are no facts about the future, then you can't know the future. A human being should be unable to say what is going to happen. But a prophet is able to tell of future events. How is it possible that a person can tell other human beings what is definitely going to happen? Well, it's because they are someone who has spoken with God or spoken with angels. So the person who is able to tell of future events is only able to do so because they are inspired by divine forces. And divine forces meaning by God or by angels sent by God. So this allows it to be as ambiguous as necessary so that we can include someone being a prophet when they didn't talk to God directly, but talked to Gabriel, God's angel, for example, which happens in the Torah and in the Bible and in the Quran. So now we have a definition of prophet. A prophet is someone who is a spokesperson for God, able to tell of future events, and only because they are inspired by divine forces like God or angels. So a prophet or a prophetess is a very important person because they got to talk with God, and when human beings want to know what they should do or what to expect, they'd be able to get knowledge from a prophet or a prophetess. A prophet is not an apostle. A prophet is not a priest. A prophet is something very special, meaning someone who has spoken with the divine and is speaking on behalf of the divine to spread information amongst human beings. So another thing that we could add here is that a prophet or a prophetess is the middle voice between human beings and divine forces. Let's look at some examples of religions. Hinduism and Buddhism are kind of difficult to pin down exactly one answer whether they have a prophet or prophetess. There are so many different denominations within Hinduism. In fact, some people argue that Sikhism and Jainism and Buddhism are just different denominations of Hinduism. So Hinduism is a very old religion with a lot of variety amongst their practices. In fact, Hinduism is the world's oldest religion that we have proof of. Some scholars argue that Krishna is a god and a god in the Hindu Trinity and was a prophet, whereas other scholars argue that Hinduism does not have any prophets. No one is speaking on behalf of Brahman, the ultimate reality. So I put an X and a check mark because no and yes, Hinduism has prophets. Buddhism, same thing. Some denominations within Buddhism argue that there was a prophet, someone who was speaking on behalf of divine supernatural forces. But on the other hand, these Indian religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, do not have a clear sense of a heavenly body, supernatural divine, set above and distinct from the earthly things. And so that would explain why it's really easy to argue that the Indian religions do not have prophets. Think about when Siddhartha comes on the scene. Siddhartha is the original Buddha. Siddhartha is not claiming that he has discovered nirvana by being told the truth by God. There are no divine revelations here where God or the gods are speaking through Siddhartha. Siddhartha is just some guy who through a meditative state discovered transcendence of the spirit and is able to teach other people to also do the same. In those terms, Buddhism does not have a prophet. Jainism also does not have a prophet. They don't believe in divine forces that are separate from the earthly forces, that certain people are able to serve as median voices. In Confucianism, same thing. Confucianism, the Chinese religion, Kuang Fu Zi is not telling us that he is spreading Confucianism because some divine forces have ascended to earth and are telling him what to say. The same thing with Taoism. Lao Tzu, just like Kuang Fu Zi and just like Mahavira, these three main characters in these three religions are just saying, I have thought this through, here are some things that work for me, and then a bunch of people start following Lao Tzu, Kuang Fu Zi, Mahavira, Siddhartha. So that's why we can understand that these religions don't have prophets. It's because they don't have a sense of heavenly bodies like a god. Whereas in Sikhism, there are some denominations that claim that Guru Nanak is a divine seer, someone who is telling human beings what to believe because he is inspired by supernatural forces. Let's go to some easier cases, and these are the Abrahamic faiths. In the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Abraham is a prophet. So too is Adam a prophet, Noah is a prophet. But in Judaism specifically, we can add that Moses is a prophet. Moses literally talks to God on Mount Sinai and in some other instances. Christianity, Jesus literally talks with God and is telling human beings what is to come and what to do and what to believe because he is inspired by divine forces. In Islam, Muhammad literally talks with divine forces with the angel Gabriel as he's meditating in a cave one day. And so these three religions have clear examples of a prophet, someone who is telling human beings what to do and what to believe because that person is inspired by God. Now, little hiccup here is that some scholars argue in Christianity you should not call Jesus a prophet because Jesus is not speaking on behalf of God. Jesus is God. So that's another trickier one. In Zoroastrianism, clear case of a prophet, God, Ahura Mazda, comes down to Zarathustra, also known as Zoroaster, and tells him what the truth is and what he should tell other human beings. So to recap, A prophet is someone who is a human being who is inspired by supernatural or divine forces and has supernatural or divine knowledge and is spreading the word amongst human beings based on what he or she is told by those divine information giving creatures like angels that come down, spirits that come down, or God himself, like in the instance of Moses and the burning bush. Other religions like Jainism, Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, and in some contexts your understanding of Hinduism, do not have divine bodies that are separate and distinct from human earthly bodies. And so for those religions, it's also easy to argue that there are no prophets because no one is able to speak on behalf of a God if there is no God.